Alright, hello everyone. Hope you can hear me. Okay, I'm just gonna wait a minute so everyone can join in and make sure that you guys hear me. Alright, well, let me know if you cannot. So today we are going to have an overview of the general features of Weviz. I'm Mihaly, by the way. Hello, welcome everyone. So we are going to take a look at our features overall, have a walk in the software, and as we are at our version 0.8 early access version, we are going to look at some of the features that might be new for you and some of the new mechanics. So, okay, great. So you can see my screen here, and some of you are probably already familiar with this. You can see all my projects here that have been already started, my little profile here, and the button to join a meeting. There is a little plus button down here to import already existing projects that might not appear here. But what we are going to do now is we are going to start a new project. So I'm going to click New Project, and I'm going to click Import, and I'm going to select a file. So, as always, little reminder that we do treat most CAD formats and many 3D formats. Some of the examples are visible here, but you can find plenty of information and tutorials on our website. So I selected my file here, and if I would want to, I could add supplementary files here. So multiple file imports are of course possible, and you also have the possibility to import these files from within the editor during your project. The settings are up here in the top right corner, but now we are just going to click Next, bottom right corner, and go to the next stage. So at this screen, you are going to make sure that your file is well oriented, it's not sideways, that it's in the proper orientation you would want to start with. And if here on this screen, you can also make sure that you have your normals in order. So if you think that there are any issues with the file display, you have this this button here in the upper right corner that you can click, and what this button does basically is it will double all your normals. So if you have a display issue, this button can help you fix it. Now we are going to click Next. And we are at the next stage, which is scaling. Of course, here on the upper slider, you choose the units of your file. So here you make sure basically that your object is at the right scale. Then you click Next. Wait for it to load a little bit. Alright, I see many of us in the comments. Good to see so many people. Thank you for joining in, guys. Alright, here we are. So, at the start you get a very simple view of your object. Nothing fancy here. And as you can see, the interface is trimmed down to the essentials. Okay, from Raphael, question: can I import my model from Rhino into Weviz? Yeah, sure, you can. There are a number of formats, export formats, including Rhino's own format that you can use in Weviz, no problem whatsoever. You can import it and manipulate it just as you would any other file. So we start at the bottom left corner here, and this is going to be your menu, right? Create network session is an interesting one. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Saving project, just the usual stuff. Nothing fancy here. It's just the usual. You can activate tooltips, tutorials in here. So a regular menu. Then we're going to start with the first button down here. And this is going to be material editor. So once we click this, a library of our material will appear on the left side, and you can grab materials and apply them to your object. You can also just click the parts you would like and apply the materials onto them. Let's say this one here. I'm just going to sprinkle it with lots of different metals. Here you can also use the right click menu, and you can use materials that are already on your model. You can just drag and drop them or even save them in your library, which I'm not going to do now, but you can just drag it over here and drop it. And it's a simple way to put some materials on your model. Alright, let's put some paint. And if you would like to break up the material group, let's say I would like this block here to be a different material than all these parts, then you have this simple button that will break up material groups, and now you can apply a different material to a different part. And these are now separate material groups. If you drop the same material on it again, they will be united. So now you can see they are united. For this purpose, you can also use the hierarchy. Basically, down here at the bottom right corner, you have the ray tracing button. And right next to that on the left, you have the button that will activate the hierarchy. Now, we will use this also for some other purposes later on that you will see. Alright, so I'm just going to drop some materials and maybe even some stickers on this. Yeah, let's see. I'm going to go with paint and just apply it to this one. Okay, and sprinkle in some more metal. The cool thing about this is, if you would like to edit materials or create your own, you can do that, no problem. So what we are going to do here is we are going to double click on this part here, and we can see that we have a texture, but we also have a reflection and a bump map here. Now we don't have a bump map as for this one, but we can just generate it with a simple click. This will give the impression of actually having some geometry, some bumps on the surface of the material. This can be inverted and further refined. So this one is a bit aggressive, so I can just tone it down here. I can tone the intensity with the power slider and the hardness, which would round down the edges if turned down. This applies to the reflection map as well, and to the texture. And you can import your own images here, basically. So you go here and grab some images that you could import your own images here. And then you could generate reflection maps and bump maps for that. As you can see, we are going to generate a reflection map. So this will apply more realistic reflection to the model. And of course this could be scaled, rotated, moved around, or even asymmetrically scaled, either using the sliders or using these small buttons down here. Alright, I like how that looks, so I'm just gonna leave it like that. Maybe increase the brightness a little bit. Of course, it's really funny. If you increase the color mix, you can play around a lot with the colors here. I'm just gonna leave it slightly bluish and leave it at that for now. Now this material was created on the model, but if I would like to, I can save it, of course, with a simple drag and drop. I'm just gonna name it. Alright, let me see if I have any questions in the meantime. Yes, so I guess this one goes to Edward. As you have seen it, I think what you just saw answers the question you asked. So yes, you can create your own material. You just saw me doing it, and you can drag and drop it into the library, no problem. And for Nicholas, so to import multiple objects into the same scene, different scene, yes, possible, no problem at all. You can use the hierarchy. Once you activate the hierarchy, you can right-click, basically anywhere. You can even right-click here and click on Add New Object. This will open up a file opening window from which you can import your other 3D object, or let's say it could be like a design variation. So it could be like a different version of this block or any other component. For that, you can use the right-click and replace feature that you can see on my screen right now. And yeah, the fact that the file formats are different is not a problem. One thing that you might have to deal with is rotation and scale. So I'm just gonna finish with the materials and stickers here, and I might talk a little bit about that later. So you saw a little bit about materials now. Of course, you can create your own from scratch with this button right here. And we also have quite a large online library that you can access on our website. So next one is going to be stickers. So up here in the material edition panel, you have three sub-panels up here that you can select. And here, of course, you have stickers, which are just images, right? So you can import your JPEG or PNG files if you want transparency. But we already have a built-in library that should give you a good start. Simple drag and drop, scaling. So you grab this cube here and you scale your sticker. And then you will move it around with this 3D gizmo. Now, to edit stickers, you have to be in the sticker panel. So as you can see, I dropped it now, but I'm not able to modify it. So what we are going to do now is click the material ball down here, and then make sure that up here it is set onto the sticker panel. And once that is done, I can modify my stickers. So I'm just going to double click here and apply a bit of roughness for some extra realism, and I can lock the sticker to make sure that it doesn't move around. So I'm going to update my sticker now, and there you have it. That's my sticker. Alright, I'm just gonna put some more materials in here. Just to make it look nice and real. Excellent. Great. So that was easy. We just dropped a couple of materials, a sticker, played around with the material editor a little bit, and I would say we have a pretty nice look of the model. Now, one thing that you can do here that is pretty cool is we have our own humanoid models that are of course up to scale that you could just drop right into the scene. This can help, of course, help participants understand the scale of the object, but also can increase immersion for people in VR, right? Okay, so let's look at that famous hierarchy. I'm gonna say goodbye to these guys for now. I'm using my delete key to remove them from the scene. So I'm gonna close the material editor and open up hierarchy here. And with the hierarchy, we can select components individually and move them around. For most of our features, you can use Ctrl-Z, Ctrl-Z to undo your actions. With our latest updates, we have improved this. They don't cover all features, so for example, it won't apply to camera movement, but it will apply to most of your actions. One thing to keep in mind is when you open or close the hierarchy, the line of undoable actions will be cut. So no undo right after opening or closing the hierarchy. So just make sure to think of that. Okay, now what we use a hierarchy for? So basically we can use it for lots of things. One thing is creating children in the hierarchy. So what I'm going to do now is hold down my Control key once the hierarchy is opened. This will allow rectangular selection. So any parts included in the rectangle or touched by the rectangle will be selected. Now you can see a rubber duck here that has been highlighted. There it is. You can use the little I button here just to make sure your selection is correct. You can hide it, unhide it. Now I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to convert it to child. Excellent. So what this does is from now on the object, this little rubber duck in the front, is, for example, in certain screens, such as the environment screen that I'm going to talk about later a little more. I'm just going to catch up with the questions here, 1 second. Yes, okay. Okay, excellent. So once your object has been converted to child, you can move it separately, and this is actually very useful once you go into virtual reality, because you can just use the controller trigger and grab the duck or your object and move it around. So let's come back here and take another look. What you see here is once I select it, it's okay, it looks nice, but the gizmo is actually far off. So this can happen if in your CAD or 3D software your pivot points have not been properly defined. But no worries, because what we do here is just click the container here, right click it, and select Move Pivot. And once that's done, we're just gonna click the object and it will move the pivot point of the object right onto the selected parent. So now this one is easy to move around. What else can we do here? Of course, you can do, let's say, all the classics of a hierarchy. Let's say, look at this door. I can hide it, right? So the contextual right click menu changes once you open the hierarchy. You will have the contextual actions that change, and anything you click here is highlighted here. So you even have a range of contextual actions here. Some of them are the same, but actually you have more if you use the hierarchy. So you will see you have move to new container, convert to child. Here you have the basic ones, basically. Focusing will center it and zoom on it and center it into the viewport. Hide will hide it. Now, if you want to unhide quickly and easily, you just right click on an empty space and select Show All. Isolate will isolate it. Replace would replace it, of course, if you had let's say a different design for this. Deleting would delete it, and then you could copy the pivot point or move the pivot point as you've seen it on the deck earlier. So moving pivot point would be like this. Okay, I'm going to convert this one to child. You might see later on why. So I'm clicking right click on the object and select convert to child and drag it all the way up here, so it's easier to find later on. And what I'm going to do with this, what is also really cool about the hierarchy, is we can assign constraints here. So what I'm going to do is, once I convert an object to child, you will see the name changing into this rounded container that becomes blue once it's selected. So once you have something like this, you can select your constraints. Up here you have 2 of them, and you can drag and drop it. So you will see that a small blue dot appears on the left side of the name, and that's where I'm going to drop it. Now, since I already selected a pivot point for it, it's located at the right place. But at this stage, you can of course move it around and try to set it up manually if you don't have it properly in your 3D file, or if you would like to have your own pivot point set up in Weviz. And here basically you select the axis of rotation, right? So one very cool feature that we have in this one is picking a pivot point that is already defined inside your file. So this button, once you select it here, would take the pivot point of the selected object, right, of the selected part. So this can be very useful for a handful of cases. But for now, I'm going to cancel it, and we're just gonna stick with the pivot point we already have. Okay, I'm just catching up with some of your questions. Can I change camera settings on my screen from Rafael? Yes, we are going to talk about that later on. You have the central button here, as you can see, is a small camera, and that one is all about camera settings. And once you combine it with slides, you can get some pretty powerful results in here. We're gonna talk about that a little bit later. So what I'm going to do now is assign a constraint. So once I have my pivoting point, I'm just going to hit next, and it will ask me to select the minimum rotation. Now I want the minimum position of this door to be closed, so that's fine. I'm just gonna leave it at 0 degrees, and I'm gonna hit next. And once I hit next, you can see I'm just gonna grab my arrow and open it all the way up. Now, one thing is, often people would want their rotations to go to some sort of rounded number, let's say 90 degrees, right? In this case, you could hold down your shift key and drag the arrow at the same time. So this would make sure that your rotation degrees snap to every 10 degree version. Now you can see that I'm at 89 because I moved it right before holding shift. So better make sure I start from 0, hold down shift, and you will see me jumping by degrees of 10. So now that's 90 degrees, but since this is just a door, I don't care that much about it, so I'm going to open it up and save it like this. So once this is done, I can just grab this and open it with the mouse. So click, hold and drag. And this one also applies to VR. So anyone would be wearing a virtual reality headset coming up here could just put the little pointer inside the door and very naturally, holding the trigger, open up this door. The other type of constraints we have are the slide constraints, and I'm going to show you how that one works. And what we are going to do is we're going to apply it to a group. So you see that there is a group of components here, not only a single part. What I'm going to do is right click and isolate it to make sure that I have all my parts necessary. Okay, yeah, it looks good to me. And now we select show all. And I'm just gonna do a simple right click, and I'm going to use convert to child. And once again, drag it all the way up so it's easier to find. Once this is done, I'm just gonna put a simple sliding constraint on it, so drag and drop on the blue dot again. And now you can see that my axes are 90 degrees off, because I would like this piece to slide up and down. So I'm just gonna use my previous trick, but this time to define the axis. Hold down Shift and do a 90-degree rotation. Very easy. And since here I only care about the direction of the movement, I don't even have anything else to do. So I'm just gonna click Next, lower it down, hit Next again, set the maximum point, which would be here, I suppose, and save it. So now that this is done, this part can also be grabbed and moved. And this includes VR also, of course. Okay, so now that we have set up some constraints, we're gonna talk a little bit about environments and camera. So this is a bit of an industrial object, but nonetheless, you might want to show it off. You might want to show some nice images about it to someone. But of course, this feature is also very useful with some commercial uses. You know, you could show off some objects in a very nice, realistic looking environment. So here, what is new in version 0.8 is that we apply HDR images by dragging and dropping them. And this would give a background for your object. Probably a factory building could be more realistic for this. So let's drop in. Yeah, that looks okay. And now another new feature we have now is basically we have a color palette and some reference objects to make sure that the lights and reflections are set up in an environment as we would want it. So to use this reference tool, what you would do is just double click the HDR in your library. Once you double click it, you will have this new tool appearing here. And here you can check your reflections, lights, and colors. So you might wanna apply, I don't know, a strong sunlight. So here on the right side panel, you would modify your sunlight here and increase the power, and maybe even give it a different color with the color picker. And this, in this way, you could verify, you know, if the results are what you are looking for. Are you looking for a very strong, maybe a bit artistic light, or just something more natural where the colors would still appear natural? Now I suppose for this object we're just gonna stick to regular lighting. So let me talk a little bit more about this HDR library here. So we have our default library that is included here, a lot of default images, and you could import your own, so you can find plenty of HDR images on the internet and you can import them to your scene and save them into your library. Okay, so once you select your HDR here, of course you can modify the size. And what is cool about this, and we polished this feature a bit in 0.8, is that if you are not happy with the values that are provided here, the sliders now update automatically. So as you can see, it maxes out at 4. You see the numeric value here. So you could just say, I would want to have 7, right? And then the slider will adjust to that dynamically. So the maximum and minimum values can be changed. You can also change a rotation here, the level of the horizon, brightness, contrast, saturation, and light on the model, model lighting. You can also give a solid color background. Once you use the solid color background, you can click here and use a color picker and have your own color selected. Alright, but we're just gonna stick with something regular. One thing to note about this is that with the solid color background, what you are using as reflection is still, if you look on the DAC carefully, you can still see that the reflection and the lighting is applied from the HDR image applied previously. Alright. So here you've already seen what sunlight does. You can modify the elevation and sun position to have your desired lighting effects. A little bit more about lighting. So here on the environment panel, on the second sub-panel, you also have real 3D lights that you can drop into your scene. Drag and drop, simple as that. You can move them around, rotate them, and by that even scale them, by the way. You can scale them, and double clicking them will give you the option to configure, for example, intensity, attenuation, basically how wide it will spread, right? And colors. So these lights, once you leave the light screen, are going to be the lamps themselves are going to be hidden, but the light will apply. If for some reason you would want the 3D mesh of the light to appear, you could always double click here and click on Show 3D Object. This way, when you leave the editing part, this light is still visible. It might be included in your scene. By the way, these lights work even without ray tracing. As you can see. Alright. Another feature we have that might not be the most fitting for this object, but can be very interesting for other objects, is the option to have floors, different grounds, right, that have their own geometry and reflection map. You can adjust their height, you can adjust their size. Now they don't seem to increase in size because they are already outside the bounds of the HDR image. This is my favorite water here. I like this a lot. I like to use it for boats or even motorcycles. Gives a very nice reflective part. And this one here is the sea floor, basically. Alright, some other props we have up here on the fourth sub panel are some rocks. This can give some nice volume to your scene. Let's say you would like to portray a motocross bike on a dirt ground. Put some rocks on the scene, add some nice lights. This can also cover up the distortions of the HDR at the edges. Alright, let's talk about camera settings. I'm going to remove floors here and let's talk about camera. So using this you can take snapshots. Checking the transparent background box will allow you to basically have a PNG file that has only the object on it. So if you would need to use it for another project in a photo editing software, let's say Photoshop, you wouldn't have to cut this object out. You could have a high quality screenshot without having any background, and you could still apply your lighting effects on it. Field of view. Just like the FOV settings of a camera. Now you can also use Alt and mouse scroll up or down to adjust this. And then you would have depth of field. So this is the same as DOF on a camera. You set your focus point and select the degree of blur. Excellent. Here you have some post-processing sliders, brightness, contrast. These would apply to the entirety of your scene and not only to the HDR. White balance, right? You can go crazy with this. Flat background projection would allow you to prevent distortion on your HDR images. So let's say I'm choosing this background. And as you could see that the posts here are distorted. What we are going to do here is use flat background projection in camera settings, and this would remove all distortion. Now it comes at a price because it will cause your object to slide, but it removes all distortions. So this can make a difference if you would like to do a very cool realistic screenshot. Alright. And now we are going to our most exciting new features, and this is going to be the review collaborative panel. Let me just adjust the lights a little bit here. Alright. So let's go on the collaborative features. Here we are going to create some slides. As you can see in our new version, the slide creation is on the left side. Let's create some slides. The slides will capture the entirety of your scene with all modifications included. So this could be just the camera angle and different camera settings. But let's say you would want to modify the material or the positions of some parts, the materials applied to them, the appearance of different objects. So you could hide an object, right? I'm going to hide this duck here and create a new slide. And also you can move around parts. You could move around your constraints. Let's see, I'm going to create a new slide, validate at the bottom here with the check mark here, and I'm going to move this up and create another slide. Now what happens? You'll get a smooth transition between the two stages of these slides. Same goes for the door here. Create a new slide, open it, open the door, create another slide, And now moving between those two slides will result in a smooth transition. Now, as you can see, I moved the camera a little bit unintentionally, and this causes a small camera movement, but no worries about that, because I can just right click on a slide, select copy, select camera view, and then right click on the next slide, and right under copy you will have the button to paste camera view. And once I validate this, the camera stays perfectly stationary. Alright, let me look at the questions. Can you scale props? Can you share your slides? Okay, so answering to Nicola for scaling props. You can scale your props. I'm going to show you with a rock. Just gonna drop this rock into the scene, and you have the scaling tools here to scale it. Here you go. That's how you scale props. Now, since we are in slide edition, once I want to delete a rock, it will ask us if we would just like to hide it for other slides or delete it from the hierarchy, deleting it from all existing slides. This is important because once we drop a rock into the scene, it will appear in our hierarchy, as you can see it. So I'm just going to delete it completely. Select delete, so it is out of the hierarchy. And since this part is all about collaboration, answering the question of Edward, if you can share your slides. So here is the thing about this part. You could, of course, easily share your project file, but since this part is all collaborative, meaning that I'm going to show you a little video at the end how this works, because people, once you're in here and you created your scene, you can create a network session with this button on the left that comes out of this menu. And once this is done, you will have a session ID and a password for the session, and people can join in on the scene right here. And that is for people on desktop and in VR. So you're gonna see that, for example, people who join in VR, you will see them as floating VR headsets and controllers. You'll see them walk around the scene, real time, of course. And the profile pictures of the people who are in the session will appear here. Okay, now let's talk about the review tools on the right side here a little bit. Let's say I would like to give a title to this one here. I'm just going to create a new slide at the very beginning and select titles here, and I'm just going to add a simple title here. Calling it Duck Factory. Alright, once I have this, we improved this in v0.8 version 0.8. Once I have this, I can drag it around and validate, right? So I wanted this to be on the first place, so I can just easily drag and drop it. I'm going to go all the way up and drop it here. You can, by the way, while you are dragging, you can use the scroll wheel on your mouse, so this makes it really easy to drag some slides around. I could even rename this slide and call it Start, right? So you can right click and rename. And then this would be Duck Factory. So I'm going from slide 1, going to Start. Now I have Duck Factory. Okay, let's say you are working on a project review, right? Somebody would like to leave a comment. they would just select the post-it tool here, mark the point of interest they would want to talk about. Their profile will be written here and the time of the comment right next to their name. And they could say, you know, I don't know, that this part here is too short and they would want to increase it. Now, this comment will be saved in the file, but it's also going to be, I'm sorry, this comment will be saved in the file, but it's also visible to real-time participants in the chat. So somebody could jump in and put a measurement on the same slide, basically double-clicking the slide, take the measuring tool, measure the length of this conveyor part, and then reply here with their own, of course now it's going to be mine because I'm the one replying, but another participant could come in here and their profile picture would be in the right and reply that and then validate the slide. These tools work in real time while you are collaborating with someone. So this could be in the middle of a meeting you hold in Weviz. People could leave their comments and other people could reply to them, right? We also have an easy hiding tool. So I'm just going to jump on another slide and show you how the hiding tool works. Let's say you would want to take a peek here. Let's hide some components. We're gonna hide a bunch of them just to take a good look inside. Yeah. Okay. And we get a closer look at the machinery here. Okay, excellent. Validate the slide. Create another slide, but I would like to unhide some of these parts. So this time I'm going to click on the unhide button. I show you. You hover your mouse above the hide button and this other button will come out with the eyeball. And now it will flip, right? Everything that's hidden will be shown, but this is only for you to select the parts you would like to unhide, actually. So I'm going to select this one here and validate. And once I validate it, you can see that it has been inversed, and now I can validate my slide. So what you would see here is the unhidden objects reappearing in the scene. All right. And of course, if you would like to go to VR, that's the last button you click here. That's the button I'm not going to click now because it could mess up my live stream. So I'm not going to go into VR now, but this is the VR button. Simple, you click it, you pop on your headset. If you are in a multi-user session, you will see other people in VR moving around here, and you can also see the annotations left on the scene. All right, what else? I'm going to show you real quick how to create a cool exploded view using the hierarchy and the combination of hierarchy and slides. So I'm just going to create a new slide right here. Add the create new slide, okay. And now I activate hierarchy and use Control key to have a rectangular selection. Move some components around. Some further out than others if you really want to have a nice exploding effect. and move them around in every direction a little bit. I'm just going a little bit freestyle now, but depending on your project and what you would like to achieve, of course you can select your objects very precisely. Okay, I'm creating a new slide and validating it. And now, here is my exploded view, right? And why not go a bit crazier with it and hide some more components. Basically, what I would like to highlight is only these central components. So what I'm going to do is use the rectangular to select them, then use the right click on a selected item and click isolate. Once I have this, I'm just gonna zoom the camera in here. Save this slide, create a new slide, and then I'm going to remove these even farther apart. Of course, a more precise selection might be required once you exactly know what you are looking for, what are the parts you need to highlight, but this is for the sake of demonstration. All right. And I could also just apply the camera view from this slide I had here, and that would make the effect even more impressive. So this is how you go from complete object, decomposed, isolated, split up even more, and then zoom in on the final details. So once again, the entirety, decomposed, isolated, even more decomposed, and zoom in on the interesting parts. All right, so that about wraps up what I'm going to show you inside the editor, and now I'm going to show you, well, let's save the project, just so we are sure we know how to do that. Basically, you could go with Ctrl+S or use the side panel, save the project, name it, and that's it. Is the Quest 2 VR headset, Oculus Quest 2 VR headset, is compatible with the software? Absolutely. This is what I use, and I like to use it wirelessly for comfort. It works really good. With Virtual Desktop or AirLink. Yeah, all compatible. So now I'm going to show you a little captured footage of multi-user usage. All right, here it goes. So creating a network session on the left panel, you will have your session ID and you can define a simple password. Once you have done that, if you are invited into the event, you would have to load the project file clicking this folder here that you received from the event host. And once that is done, you click join session. Then your object is loaded, and as you can see, the profile pictures of the participants are up here. And you can see my colleague Etienne here wearing a VR headset and traveling around the scene while I observe from the outside. With the new presenter mode, right-clicking on the profile picture, you can set up a presenter. You would just right-click one of these profile pictures up here, and then click Select Presenter. And this would allow the selected person, who is a person outside of VR, who would select the slides, and those slides would be displayed for all the participants, and even for the person in VR. So the person in VR would be teleported closest to the appropriate camera angle and oriented towards the object with all the slide configurations, be it material change, variation in parts, constraints changing, right? And on this part you can see me and Etienne interacting inside VR. So this is a capture of in VR footage. Grabbing the door. All right. So that about wraps it up. I'm going to mention some additional informations. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for participating and being here today. And if you have any questions, always you can write into our forum, or just something you created in Weviz you would like to share. We are always very happy to see the amazing works you guys do with our software, and we take great pleasure in it. So just feel free to post your creations into our forum, and any questions that come up you can ask it there. If you can also find a lot of information on the website, on our YouTube channel, and you can always shoot us an email, of course, but feel free to use the forum too, so we can create some shared knowledge base together. And as of now, if you go on our website, or maybe William is here and he can show you the link where you could grab a 30-day trial version that is fully functional. And yeah, and that's about it. I'm going to wait for some questions and answer them and show you the answers maybe. So I already see some questions. Only one guy can go in VR during a session? No. I don't know if there is a theoretical limit, but multiple users can go. A large number of users can go in VR at the same time, also outside of VR. Any other questions? Okay, cool. So, if there are no other questions, I think I thank everyone for taking part today, and yeah, that's going to be it. Thank you very much once more for participating in our live webinar. Feel free to post your questions on the forum, send us an email, and share your works on the forums. Don't forget you have the 30-day trial still available. Thank you very much, everyone.